Hi there, this is Kim, and in this vlog I wanted to share what I realized and understood when it comes to living the solution to war and conflict. And I do mean on a global scale. I do mean, war in this world, as I realized that each one of us actually has a power to create. Each one of us has a vote that we live in terms of what we're going to accept and allow in this world. And each one of us has the potential and the power to change this world um, in ways that you might not actually expect. So allow me to expand on that and share with you what I realized through experiences that I've been facing in my own life lately. And these experiences were in my relationship with my husband, specifically, where for like a few weeks or so, we've been having like difficulties in terms of there having been certain issues, certain problems that have come up, and within which and in relation to which we've both of us gotten angry about or felt hurt about. Where I, for instance, would feel hurt about certain things and would blame my partner for having hurt me, where all this time in the back of my mind I've just been holding on to those memories, been holding on to that hurt, been holding on to these thoughts about essentially, that he's in the wrong. He needs to apologize, he needs to change. This is actually his fault. Where to an extent, sure, I've been kind of working with my emotions, stabilizing myself, making sure that I'm not emotionally reacting to these things, and on the surface level things have been stable. But if I'm honest and look back now, I can see that all the while I've actually still been in a point of blame. I've still been in the background of my mind holding on to certain thoughts, to memories, to emotional experiences of blame. And so yesterday there was another point that came up where my partner went into something that he was frustrated about. He voiced his frustration about something, and in that moment I felt attacked. And I immediately went into this reaction of wanting to defend myself, wanting to essentially protect myself because I felt attacked. So I then blamed him back, because to me, I felt that he was the problem. I felt that, he's the one not appreciating me, which was actually, fascinatingly enough, exactly the same as how he felt in relation to me. So, but in that moment, I basically bounced the ball back to him, and, where we then ended up creating another point of blame, another memory that we would be holding on to, another, issue on top of the pile of issues that would create or intensify and keep alive this experience that we've been having of just kind of discomfort, of just kind of conflict, and almost like a cold war going on between us. So last night I looked at this point and I looked at, okay, what can I do to change this? What is really going on here? What have I not yet realized or understood or looked at for me to be able to change this experience? For me, what is going on here? And I realized that throughout this entire time, weeks in which I've kind of been blaming him of things, I realized that what I haven't been doing is being humble. I have not been humble. I have, every time I felt blamed, every time I felt like he was attacking me in some way, I immediately bounced the ball back. I immediately went into experiences of hurt, of blaming him, of pointing fingers, thoughts about, he's the bad guy, I'm the good guy, I'm right, he's wrong. Um, he needs to be punished, which there are subtle thoughts like that also come up, if I'm completely honest. Like, he needs to be punished, this is his fault. And I was basically, even though I had been working on my emotions. I had been trying to resolve these issues, communicating and things like that. There were still those kind of thoughts going on in the background of my mind where I was convinced that, he's right, he's wrong, and I'm right. And, where I was holding on to that experience of hurt and pointing fingers. So I actually realized that what I was doing was creating war. I was allowing war to exist in my own life because that's what war is based on. War is based on exactly those thoughts, exactly those emotions of, blaming the other person and, playing the game of right and wrong and good and bad and pointing fingers. And it's like war is based on playing that game of kind of convincing ourselves that for some reason the other person deserves to be punished. The other person deserves to be attacked because I feel attacked, or because I'm in the wrong, or because I'm unjustly treated. So for some reason, the other person needs to now be treated in this way, or they needs to be cast out or rejected. Where that's basically how war is created, through allowing those thoughts in our mind. And the thing is that those kind of thinking patterns feel so natural. It feels so natural to go into that kind of thinking. It feels so natural to react with self-defense, self-protection when you feel attacked. It feels natural to do that, to also go into blame, to also go into anger when you feel like someone's angry at you, when you feel like someone's blaming you. It feels natural to want revenge, to want justice, to want, to kind of go into those kind of reactions that then create war, that then create a situation of war, of separation, of disconnection, of rejection, etc. But the thing is that it's not supportive. It's not a solution. It might feel natural and it might be an automatic response in our mind, but it's not a solution, and it's never going to solve war. It's just going to promulgate, and it's just going to fuel war even more. Where what I realized is that all this time, I have not been living the solution to this conflict. I have not been living gentleness or uh, humbleness. Sorry. I haven't been living the word humbleness because I've just constantly been throwing the ball back and blaming him and going into anger, going into reactions, going into holding on to thinking patterns about right and wrong and good and bad and wanting justice and things like that. I have not once actually been humble. I have not once actually lived and applied the real solution to to conflict, the real solution to blame. Because have a look. What happens when you get angry at someone, or someone gets angry at you, and you don't react to them with blame? You don't react back. You don't get angry back at them, but you just remain calm. You remain stable. You remain in this humbleness, in a point of forgiveness. Basically, what happens is that that person is then left with themselves. Whereas if they get that resistance, if you react back to them, they have this point of resistance, which then actually ends up fueling their anger, fueling their reaction even more, because now they've got another player in the game. But if you don't react, then they're the only player, and they're going to end up being left with themselves. They're going to end up seeing themselves and eventually realizing what they are allowing to exist inside of themselves. They're going to eventually realizing that they are allowing themselves to be fueled with anger, with blame, with pointing fingers, and all that. You're going to actually, in that way, assist and support this individual to get to know themselves, to face themselves, and eventually they're going to have much more of a chance to actually let go of and work through their own anger. Because what happens when we react is that we just fuel the other person's reactions even more, as well as our own, because we're playing a game where we constantly bounce the ball back. But if there's only one player, then you're faced with yourself. And, I realized that this is actually my responsibility in my relationship with my partners, to live as the example, to live as the actual solution to blame, the actual solution to war. Not just in my personal relationship with my husband, but on a global scale. If I, as one human being, live that solution, live in that way as a voice of change, a voice, a statement, a living statement wherein I basically say no to conflict and war inside of myself, where I just simply don't allow it to exist inside of myself, inside of who I am, and consequently in my relationships with others, then I am essentially changing the world. Because war is a consequence and a result of each one of us casting our vote, each one of us, through what we accept and allow to exist in our own life, inside of ourselves, agreeing that yes, war is the solution, yes, war is who we are, because of the reactions, the thinking patterns that we ourselves participate in our own life. So, just by realizing that and by bringing myself to that point of humbleness and stability inside of myself, I was able to just move through all of those experiences of conflict that I've been facing these last weeks in relation to my husband. Because, it's just a point of realization that obviously humbleness is the solution to conflict, is the solution to blame, is to just unconditionally let go of any thoughts, any emotional reactions, any type of internal conversations related to the blame game, related to he did that and she did this and they deserve that, and I need justice and I need this and that's been done unto me, etc. So this was basically what I wanted to share in this video, because obviously it's not just on a personal level, it's a very supportive point, because it's obviously something that we all face in our life. At some point in our relationship we feel attacked, we feel blamed, we feel hurt, and the tendency is to then for us to blame our partner, or to go into anger, to go into self-defense, to go into those kind of reactions where we just end up fueling the conflict even more. So this is a solution for us in our personal lives, which is based on common sense. It's not a natural thing for us to do, for us to be humble, because it feels counterproductive, because it goes against our automatic response. But all you need to do is apply common sense and realize that our automatic responses are actually not trustworthy. They just end up creating the problem even more. And that, with a little bit of common sense, with a little bit of dedication, we can really live the solution, which is to live the word humbleness. In those moments where you feel like someone's blaming you, you just make that decision that I'm not going to allow myself to play the blame game. I'm going to stand in the point of forgiveness, of humbleness, of stability. And you just stand, realizing that that is the ultimate solution, not just for conflict in your personal life, but on a global scale in relation to war that exists in this world. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.